Hi everyone, and welcome to our mixed media canvas class today. Today we're going to create a canvas using just like a kid's paper sort of mask. I've just cut the elastic off this one, but I've decided to go with this one. I do have a couple of other ones, but I think I like this one better at the moment. There are all different sorts you can get. You could use plastic, or this one's a paper one. So I've done all my prep work. I've already given my canvas a coat of black. We're going to add lots of colour and textures into this as well. I cheated and sprayed my flowers black today. I'm not too worried about any bits that I've missed. I'll get them on the next coat with gesso. So I've got some different size flowers, if you can see those, that I'm going to add on today. I may not add them all, but I've got them ready if I want them. I've also got some cheesecloth or gauze. You could use an organza bag if you wanted to and cut that up. I've got some twine that I've had for a while sitting around, and I've got some extra flowers that I haven't coated in black because I'm going to use the sprays and colour these with the sprays just to add a little bit of interest in there. I have beads. I've got a couple of different sizes that I'm going to add in. I've got this tape. It's a plasterboard tape, but excuse me, if I can find the end, it's just something a little bit different. It's, if you can see, it's like squares, but it's also sticky, so it'll stick down onto the canvas as well. I've got texture paste, I've got my stencil. I'm using a Finnabair stencil, the Victorian Tiles one, and I'm using London Blue and Polished Jade as well today. And I've got this wax, I don't know if you can see, but it's called Opal Magic, and when you open it up it is actually white, but there is a tinge of, this one's got blue, there's a tinge of blue in it, so when you use it on white cardstock it looks white with a pearly sheen, but when you use it on black the colour of the blue really comes out. So I'm going to add a little bit of that in today. I've got some square diamantes as well, something a little bit different than round ones. And I've also got, let's get these out the way, some cardboard and cardstock, well, box board I should say, and cardstock offcuts that I've got had left over. I'm going to use the box board to add different heights to my canvas as well, and just some offcuts of thicker cardstock or thinner cardstock, whatever you've got you can use, just to add a little bit more points of interest and texture to it. But yeah, I'm going to use the box board to give it a little bit more height in some places. So, and this is the stencil I'm using. It's called Victorian Tile. It's quite pretty, so I thought I'd use that today. So what I'm going to do first is glue. Doesn't matter what sizes you use for these. So I'm going to glue some of these down. You can cut them smaller if you want to. I've just got them as they are. I'm going to work in a landscape style, but of course you can turn it around and work a different way if you wanted to. It's really up to you which way you go, but I'm going to just layer these. Maybe like that. I'll add a bit more boxboard down here. As I said, it doesn't matter what size you use, you can cut them down smaller if you want to, if you've got your trimmer handy or scissors. I can never cut straight, but you know, it doesn't particularly matter. So I'm thinking something like that. Now I've only given everything one coat of black at the moment because as we go, obviously we need to add some more. So I'm thinking something like that. Just going to add another piece of boxboard on there, and I think that will about do it. I might use the smaller piece here. Yeah. So my cardstock is patterned as well, but I'm not worried too much about that. You can of course double up your cardstock if you want it just a touch thicker. I think I might do that with that one. And then I'm just going to stick them all down. My glue is nearly empty, so I've got to shake it quite a bit. So I'm just going to stick these two together. And you can always trim them so they're exactly the same. Okay. So, just going to get these all stuck down. The reason I haven't done a second coat of gesso at the moment is because of all the added bits we're adding on. Because of all the bits we're adding on, you may get some glue that comes out, and we want to do our texture paste as well, so our second coat will cover all of that. So if you lay it all out and you can't remember when you go to put it on, I always, not now, but I tend to take a photo so I can refer back to it, because you find when you don't take a photo you don't always put stuff back where it originally started. Doesn't bother me too much, but Sometimes if I'm really happy with the way it's laid out, I will take a photo just to make sure I don't change it. So I'm not overly concerned if all the corners are stuck down. It sort of really doesn't bother me too much, as you probably all know. So I am going pretty much right from side to side. I've also got hot glue as well, because when we stick the mask on, we don't want to be sitting waiting for it to dry. We want it to stick well pretty much straight away, so as we can keep working. So I'll be using hot glue as well, just to make sure everything is really stuck, and it's going to stay stuck. Okay, so that's all I'm going to add on there. The next step is to do our texture paste. So our stenciling. So this one, with stencils, sometimes if you feel them, you'll feel sometimes there's a raised edge on them. This one's not too bad, but on the front is the raised edge. It's sort of because of the way they're cut out. They end up with that edge, but if you read, sometimes they've got writing down the bottom that also tells you which way it goes up. The raised edge sort of helps it not go under the stencil too much. I mean, it does happen, but it sort of helps to stop that or reduce that a little bit. Sometimes it just happens, but yeah. So I'm just going to do my stenciling. So I'm going to go in different places, but also on all my layers. So I may not go right to the edge in places, but in other places I will. And because we've got different heights, I'm just making sure that I do fill in the heights if I want it filled in. So the texture paste will be a little bit thicker there, but sometimes it can't be helped. You just have to make sure it is completely dry. Yeah, see, there it's really thick, so I can scrape it off if I want and start again. So if you can avoid doing that, it doesn't matter, it just adds to it, and it's probably going to be covered by the mask anyway, so I'm not overly concerned about that part. But that will happen because the stencil's not flat on your work. So you can avoid it by, you know, not overlapping too much and just leaving a space. I'm going to have to wipe off the bottom of my stencil because I have got texture paste stuck to the back of it now. Okay. I'm just holding my stencil up so as I don't get the wet parts as well. I'm just going to avoid going up onto the other layer for now. Still not perfect stenciling, but you're not going to notice it too much once we get all our other bits on there. So I'm just going to dry all this off. Not overly happy with the stenciling, but you won't notice it once we put all the other stuff on there. So I'm just going to dry that off and then I'll be back. Okay, so all my texture paste is dry. What I've done is put my stencil back down from this bit. I've matched it all up and added some on top of the box board. The same with over here, I've matched up the stencil and added some more. I thought that needed a bit more because my mask, I don't have the sequin ribbon that you could put behind the eyes if you wanted to. So I want something to be seen behind the mask for where it's going to sit. So if you've got, you know, some lace or something, you can put lace behind there. If you've got a pattern sort of mesh, you can stick that behind the eyes just for a point of interest, or you can leave it blank like I'm going to. So everything is dry. So what the next thing is that we need to do is add on some more texture. So I'm going to add some of this tape. So it's not all going to be in this size. So I'm going to cut it and add bits on as well. It is sticky, so it just needs to be pushed down. This is just plasterboard tape, so you can get that at Bunnings. something a little bit different. But if you don't have this, you can use lace. So I'm just adding a few bits on. Yep. A bit up there. So most of it I am overlapping with something else. It just helps it flow. I'm not happy with that one there, so I'm just gonna maybe stick it on down here instead. It just didn't look right up there because it was in the middle of nowhere basically. So okay, so that's all I'm going to add on of that. Just make sure it's all stuck down. I will stick with the gesso as well, so I'm not overly worried too much about that. Then the next step is to add on some twine. All I'm going to do is hold it at the back. Doing it all back to front at the moment. If you've got a piece of sticky tape, you can stick the end down to start with and then, you know, tie it later. So I'm just going to wrap it around a few times. Yeah, it's all going to get tangled. So just make sure it's sort of tight. Okay. I think I've got enough on there. Maybe. Yep. So I think that looks alright. So I'm just going to flip it over. Make sure it all stays where it's supposed to stay. And just tie a knot and pull it as tight as you can. Just trim off the edges. Now that we've got a nice big mess with the twine. And that's pretty much it for the moment. Because you've got that knot on the back of there, you can put something under it to flatten it out if you want. But mine's not too bad. So what I'm going to do now is just coat everything with black gesso. And then I'm going to protect my work surface, so, and anything I don't want sprayed, because the next step after adding our black gesso is to add the sprays. So I'm just going to give this all a coat, make sure you get in between all those squares, especially if it's something that hasn't had a coat of gesso yet. Make sure you do all of your twine, give it a good coat. So I'm going to just pause for now and coat all of this, make sure it's coated really well, and then get it dry, and then we'll be back for the next step. So I've completely covered everything on my canvas with black gesso. There are some parts that have been missed, but that's okay, we'll get them on the next row, next go. So I've picked it up and looked at it from all angles. I can see some of my string still has a few white bits, so I'll get those on the next go. But our next step now, before we spray, is to get everything stuck down. So I've got my hot glue gun plugged in. I've got my flowers and everything ready to go. So I'm going to start layering things on. I've got my beads as well ready to go. So I'm thinking that they can sit there like that. Flower may even go underneath there, but I might put a smaller one in there. So I'm going to use my hot glue in conjunction with my other glue, because this mask, I know, has only got the two edges to sit on. So I want to make sure that is stuck and not going to move. So I'm thinking my mask will sit about there, maybe over just a touch, and I can see bits through there, but you can also, this one sits quite high, so if you wanted to, you could have it sit up a bit, and then you could fill this bottom bit under here with flowers. If you've got a lot of flowers you want to use up, it's a good way to do it. So I'm thinking they will go there. I've got all these other ones I'm going to put in and layer on top of each other. So I'm just going to get these sticking, because my hot glue gun is ready. I'm going to put a fair amount of glue under that one, and then if I can get my hot glue gun, run a fair bit down here. You do need to work quickly with the hot glue. And then any other bits that need to be covered with black gesso, we'll do that on the next going over. Okay, so that is sitting there nicely. So I'm just going to glue these ones down. I am adding a fair bit of glue on there because I do want them to stick really well. You can use your hot glue as well. Up in there like that. Okay, I'm just going to turn my hot glue off and keep adding my flowers. So I've decided I don't need my hot glue anymore, so I'm quite happy to turn it off. I have got these other large flowers. I might set that one in there. Of course, if you want to keep using hot glue, you definitely can. I might set that one. Maybe. Maybe that one on there. So these flowers have just been different colours, so I've just sprayed them to suit what I want to do. The stamens didn't really colour too well, but that's okay. I'm not concerned about that. So my flowers are going over the edge as well, so yeah, they're quite alright doing that. I'm just using different flowers to add different layers. You can add on as many flowers as you like. You sort of want to lay them on in a way that they don't get lost in each other as well. I'm not going to add a lot more flowers on. I think that we've got plenty. I may stick might put that one there, and that one up under there. If you've got leaves and stuff as well, you could add some leaves in. Okay. So with my flowers as well, any parts that I can see that are white, I can get them with the gesso again. So what I'm going to do now is just move my canvas out the way for a minute and bring it in my glass board, because I want to spray a couple of the flowers. So make sure your glass board is completely dry, and I've just got the shimmer sprays that I'm using. So I'm just going to spray some on there. Let's get my flowers. Need some water. Just grab some water and I'll be back. Okay, so we want our flowers to get nice and inky. They will get wet, so if we do them now, at least we can leave them sit to dry for a while. Okay, so that's one done. So I'm just going to wet my flower this time. Just spray directly onto it. Same with this one. I'll pick up the ink like that. Okay. So this one has a fair bit of ink on it. So just be careful you don't tear them as well. I'm also going to use my gauze or cheesecloth to wipe up the rest. Just dab it onto your flowers as well. You could do your cheesecloth black if you wanted to. I've just decided to do it this colour just so it stands out a little bit as well. So I'm just going to leave that to dry. I'm just going to give my flowers a quick dry, get them started because they are quite wet, and then I will clean up and bring my canvas back in. So our flowers are done. The next thing we need to do is add on some beads. If you want to add on some beads, I've got a couple of different sizes that I'm going to add on. And then we just need to give everything a bit of a coat with gesso again, and then of course we can spray. So you can use your hot glue gun to do this. Might put some in here. So just add on enough glue to make them stick. Oops. One that wants to run away. So you can use your hot glue to do this as well. So I'm just making sure they're sitting in the glue. Might turn this around so I can see what I'm doing, and I'm going to add some in under here and down the petal. Just make sure that sits in there. Sometimes tweezers help to get them to go where you want them to. So I'm not putting them in a straight line. Okay. that's enough there. Where else can we go? Right. Let's turn this around again. Might put a couple in here. Could use your hot glue. If I said that, it is a lot quicker in the drying time. Oops. Okay. So I'm happy with that. So I am just going to get that glue dry on everything, and then I'm going to go over with my black gesso any parts of flowers that you can see that are white still, just to make sure that everything is covered. Get any bits of stringy part of your hot glue off, and yeah, just make sure everything's absolutely dry before we move on to the next step and add our sprays. So I shall be back. So everything is completely coated in gesso. My glue under my beads is completely dry. I've made sure if you're hanging it up that any parts you see in the flowers and that will be all covered. All my string is covered. It's pretty much completely black now. So the next part is our sprays. So I'm using the London Blue Shimmer Spray and the Polished Jade as well. So all I'm going to do is just go in and spray different areas. So these are going to look absolutely amazing on our black. I've protected anything I don't want covered as well. Okay, so I'm going to add in some green. So if you've got curtains nearby, make sure that they're covered too, so you're not going to spray all over them. And I also found these Diamante beads, or Diamante ribbon string thing, that I've decided I'm going to put around the eyes as well. Just something for a bit of an added extra in there. So these sprays are looking absolutely amazing on the black. The green not as much as the blue, but you can still see it there. And because everything's been coated with gesso, it's not going to just soak in. And be lost. So I'm also moving it around because I know on the mask it's going to run a fair bit, so I don't want it pooling too much. I've also sprayed under the mask as well. I haven't sort of just left that out. Okay. So I'm happy with the colour that's on there. So I'm going to get that dry and then I'll be ready to add on my last touching bits. Okay, so everything is completely dry. Nothing is going to move. I've learnt a little trick with flowers. If you want the petals to stand up a little bit more, use your heat gun and dry underneath, and then that way they lift up and give them a little bit of body. So as you can see, this one's sticking up as well. This one is raised up, and so is this one. If you don't want them to do that, then just dry them from the top. I like to do that because it gives it a little bit more body in there as well. I've got my other flowers that are completely dry. I've decided just to use these two layered on top of each other, and I've also got my cheesecloth that is also dry, and because they're lighter they're going to give a different shade, so it's not all going to be two solid colours. So, and when I've dried this, I've dried it a bit scrunched up, so it sort of isn't just flat either. So I've decided that I'm going to actually stick this in underneath here, so as it comes out from under my flower, and you can see it through the eye of the mask as well. So I'm just going to sit that in there for the minute. I'm going to just add a couple of spots of glue, drip them down in there so as it sticks. I'm not going to completely glue it. I don't really think you need to, as long as you've got the main bits glued down. It's usually pretty fine. So I'm just going to put a couple of bits there, scrunch it up under there. And I don't really want the glue to be seen on top either, so I'm not adding a lot. So I basically want enough just to hold that to my board. I've also decided that I am going to add these diamantes on underneath, so I've cut them to size, and I've got these square ones that I'm going to add on as well. So this one I'm going to put in under here, so I want somehow get that in there like that. It might, I do want it underneath, so I'm just gonna somewhere like that. Yeah. So I'm just gonna glue that in. I know the petals underneath are going to be a little bit bent backwards, but it's okay to get it to sit where I want it. Just make sure you pull your gauze or cheesecloth or whatever out that you don't want gathered under the flower too much. So if you had pipe cleaners or feathers, you could stick them in under there as well. I'm quite happy with just the gauze. Yeah, so that's all sitting nicely under there. Pull that over. You can, that's the good thing about the cheesecloth and that is you can just stretch it to wherever you want it. Okay, so that's sticking. That's that one stuck. So I'm just gonna, my diamantes are actually pale coloured. They're a pale purple and a pale pink. I didn't have any clear ones, so I'm not too worried. It's just gonna add something else. It'll pull your eye in a different direction, but they're not going to be sticking out right in the middle of nowhere. They're sort of going to be a little bit hidden. This one I might put under there. So you also need to be careful you don't put your glue on top of them. Where will I put this one? This one might go just up here. A little bit much glue on there, but that's alright, it's going to stick. It's not going to move anywhere once it's stuck. And I can attach the cheesecloth to the extra glue just to make sure the diamante stays where I want it to stay. If you had a flower that had nothing in the middle, you could put it in the middle of a flower as well. I might put yep. May stick that one Just peeking out from under there. Hopefully we won't lose it under there. Not properly straight, but a little bit harder on the angle. Okay. And then that's going to tie in with that. So I'm just going to add little bits of glue. This one's going to be a trick to put on because you don't want the glue being in different places. So I'm just going to move this a little bit and then hold my end, hold my ends and then stick it down. Sienna. So the cat's decided she wants to come up and bump me. Sienna. So I've just got to hold that there until it sticks. May need to add a little bit more glue. Hop off. Go on, hop off before you get glue everywhere. Okay, they're starting to stick now. Should always leave the fiddly bits till last. This one was just a last minute decision to add. Okay. I'll stick the other one in a second. Just want to add that in just there. Okay. So I'm just going to stick this one on and then I'll add some wax and that is done. So you can always add as much or as little as you like to these. If you don't have paper flowers, you can use metal. If you've got flowers that are in a colour you don't like, it's a good way to use them up, spray them black and totally change them. Exactly what I didn't want to do. Sometimes it can't be avoided, but if you can get the glue up. Just going to hold that for a minute. Need 2 or 3 pairs of hands for this one. So I'm just going to hold that for a second. Okay, now it's starting to stick. That end not so much. Alright, so that's all stuck down. So the last thing I'm going to do is just add some touches of this wax. As I said, it's one for black or white. It looks white in the jar, but when you put it on, it turns a totally different color. So I'm just going to add little bits. You might be able to see it coming up there. Once it dries, the colour will come right out. But and if you've got a mask that is patterned as well, you should lightly add some onto the mask as well. Oops, a little bit much there. Oh, the middle of my flower came out. Stick that back in there. If you had gold wax, you could use gold wax too. It's a bit hard to see the blue on the blue, but I'm being told there's no water in the bowl. I'm just highlighting little bits of this stenciling as well, just in the green, so it gives it a little bit of a different tinge in there. You can see on the green in the light there's a different colour in there. Just adds, you know, that little bit extra. But as I said, if you've got gold wax, you can use the gold to give some highlights, especially if you've got a lot of blue or a lot of one colour. You will see the highlights a lot more with gold. Okay, just going to highlight these bits up here a little bit. So I'm just using my finger lightly to add the wax on. Especially in the parts that don't have any colour on them at all, you want to sort of highlight. Okay, I think that's about done. So that is our mixed media canvas using a mask. So you can see all the different elements. The green doesn't come up as much, but you know that it's there because of the pearl in there. You could use mica sprays if you've got mica sprays too. You could add foil, you could add anything on there that you want to add on. So something a little bit different with lots of texture and focus points in there. So yeah, so I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope to see you in another class soon.